You're listening to the Post-Apocalyptic Media Podcast, your weekly post-apocalyptic news roundup.
Hey everyone, welcome back to this 37th episode of the Post-Apocalyptic Media Podcast. I am your host, Shawn, and as you may notice, there's no one else around me. There's no Derek, no Stephanie, Val, Bill. Everyone is busy today, so I said, you know what, we missed last week. I'm going to go ahead and record something because I am a glutton for punishment. And so not only will I talk to myself in this episode, I will also answer myself. So that should be fun. Now, I'm actually no stranger to doing solo podcasts. I actually started out doing solo podcasts 16 years ago, 2005. Wow, that's a long time ago. And so I kind of, it's kind of nice to get back into, doing a solo podcast. Now, I've never done a video solo podcast. I don't know. But anyway, so in this one, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk about the latest post-apocalyptic news, because I feel like there's been a lot that happened in the last 2 weeks, and it's a lot of it is really important. Actually, there's a lot of release dates. There's some season 2 and some sequel news, things like that, which I think is really important. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to sit down, even if it's a quick little show. I'm just going to get this stuff out and see how it goes. So stick with me. We'll do this together. The first bit of news is pretty exciting. It's about Army of the Dead, which is a Zack Snyder movie. He directed it, he created it, and he just recently signed a 2-year contract with Netflix. And the reason this is important is because it means that there is a sequel in the works for Army of the Dead. Now, Army of the Dead, of course, is the movie about the group of people who are trying to steal money during the zombie apocalypse. They're trying to steal, they're robbing a casino, basically, in Vegas. And it was a big hit. It was like number 1 on Netflix for a couple weeks, I think. And it stayed in the top 10 for a while. But I thought it was a really good movie. We talked about it on the show before, and it was campy and kind of predictable, things like that. But it had some really cool parts in it. And so the fact that there's going to be a sequel, I think, is exciting. It's exciting for Zack Snyder too. But what's important too is in this deal, he has a company that he runs with his wife, and they both commented and they said that Netflix pretty much lets them do what they want. So I think that's important, and it makes me excited, at least, for what they can think of with the part 2. Now, they're doing prequel, they're doing little like side shows already. They're doing one called, I think, Army of Thieves or something like that, where it's kind of like a spin-off of the different characters, like what their lives are like. It's not really post-apocalyptic. It's kind of before the zombie apocalypse, so we don't really cover it. But if this is a true sequel, of course, it'll be even further into the apocalypse. So it'll be something we'll definitely cover. So I'm excited about that one. And that was that news was from July 22nd, right around there. So that's pretty old news. And the next bit of news here is about Dune. They released another Dune trailer on the 22nd. And they, not only that, they had like an IMAX showing where you could buy tickets and you could go to this IMAX showing of the movie. It's the first 10 minutes of the movie. It's not the whole movie, because the movie, of course, doesn't come out until October. So I don't know. I think it's exciting. Now, Dune is arguably not post-apocalyptic. It's set so far in the future. It has apocalypses that happened, but it's not really, I don't know. It's something we cover because it has that kind of aesthetic, and I'm a big fan of Dune, so I love it. And actually, what's funny is I started listening. I don't know if anyone's ever heard the audiobook version of Dune. I just got it on Audible last week. I've never listened to it before. I've always read the books a few times, but the audiobook version is really, really interesting. I think if you've never heard it and you're a Dune fan, it has like a whole cast of characters. So it's not just one person reading it, like you'll find a lot of times in these audiobooks. It has a whole cast of characters, just amazingly acted. It has background music. It's really, really good. I'm only about I'm like only 4 chapters in, so I'm not very far. But my goal is to listen to it all before the movie comes out in October. But this is exciting news here that they've released another launch trailer, which shows a little bit more of the characters, a little bit more of the environments and everything, and the costumes. And then the first 10 minutes, so the people who got in and were able to see those 10 minutes were able to write reviews on what they thought. And I linked to a couple of those reviews in this article on post-apocalyptic.com. So check that out if you're interested in Dune. Or if you don't think it's post-apocalyptic, then just skip it. Just go to the next one. It'll be fine. And speaking of Dune, also there is a Sisterhood series that's coming to HBO, which I think we already knew about. They just kind of changed showrunners, so it's going to be like written and directed by a new person named Diane Ademo-John. I think that's what her name is. So that's exciting. It means that they're moving forward with it, and to have this little like spin-off show is important, especially with something like Dune, where you can really get lost in what's going on in the story. It's a pretty complicated story, to say the least. Okay, the next little bit of news, I'm just flying through these. I hope you guys don't mind. Just bam, 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 right? So you might want to put it on like half speed. Because, man, when I get a camera in front of me, I'm like, I go crazy when I'm by myself. So this next little bit of news is Day of the Dead trailer. Now, this Day of the Dead, this is something that there's so many of these movies that are based on Night of the Living Dead, George Romero, of course. He wrote so many, Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead. I can't even think of the other ones. There were so many different ones. From the 60s till now. Well, this new one is it's like the 3rd or 4th remake of Day of the Dead. There was Day of the Dead Bloodline in 2018. There was the regular Day of the Dead, which was made by Romero in 85. And then in 2008 also someone made one. But during Comic-Con, it's called Comic-Con at Home because of the pandemic and everything. They did it all virtually. So they had this virtual panel where they had some cast members for this new show, and it's going to be on Sci-Fi. And it's exciting because they got to talk about, not only what they're going to do with this new show, it's a TV show on Sci-Fi that's going to be based on Day of the Dead, kind of like in that same universe. They also talk about their theories on some of the, zombie lore and stuff like that. One thing I thought was really interesting is, well, first of all, they said that they're going to be slow zombies, no more running zombies. The slow zombies were in Night of the Living Dead, so I think that's important. But the second thing is they're not going to make them so that they can just be shot in the head and killed. So there's not going to be, I poke fun at this in the article I wrote, but I say, sorry, Rick Grimes, your impeccable aim is of no use here. Because you watch Walking Dead and they just sit there, headshot. And you're like, really? I mean, I know he was a sheriff deputy, but come on. So that they're kind of getting away from that. And the way you have to kill these new zombies in Day of the Dead, is you basically have to completely destroy them. Like you have to in the trailer they show this lady that's like beating one up, and it's just so gory. And she's just smashing it to bits, so it can't even, its head is completely. It's good. For like a horror fan like myself, it's good stuff, and it has a little bit of humor in it too, and it's a very 80s. Again, I think I've already used the word campy in this episode, but it is campy. It's a campy 80s humor, which I look forward to. I mean, they're kind of bringing that back, Guardians of the Galaxy and Stranger Things and stuff like that. This 80s vibe is really big in the last, 5-6 years. So I'm excited to see that. I will definitely check out the new Day of the Dead on Sci-Fi. Let's see what else we have. Some of this news. Okay, so there's a post-apocalyptic milkshake shop in Maine. I thought this was interesting because, first of all, it's in Maine, which is where Stephen King lives, and he writes all of his stories about Maine. It's not right by where I think he lives in Bangor, Maine, and it's like an hour and a half away. Let me see what city it's called. It's called Edgecombe, Maine. And so this woman made this travel trailer. It's a 1968 travel trailer. It's a really small trailer, and she decked it out and kind of decorated the outside with a mannequin with a gas mask on and some barrels that say like atomic, like nuclear waste containers, you know. And the name of the place is Atomic Shakes. And the reason this is interesting, I think, is because, well, first of all, it's completely themed around post-apocalyptic. And the woman who started this, or Daisy Cunningham is her name. She says she loves post-apocalyptic movies, or she loves, you know, horror movies. And so she wanted to kind of take that and put it into like a food truck idea, like an ice cream truck kind of a thing, and serve shakes, basically, you know, milkshakes. She says she also serves other foods there. There's other desserts. They even have like hot dogs and stuff like that. But it's interesting to me because it's called Atomic Shake. So it's, you know, the whole theme is around atomic, apocalyptic, you know, the whole thing that we love here in the show and on the website. And they turned it into something that is delicious, dare I say. I haven't tried any of these. But there is one that she lists all the flavors on the Facebook page. There's one flavor that's a little questionable, but if I was in Maine, if I was anywhere near Maine, I would drive here and try this out. It's called the Jalapeno Cheesecake. Would you guys try that out? I mean, I love hot stuff and I love cheesecake, but putting them together, I don't know. It sounds exciting. And a couple other ones she has on there. Instead of like a blizzard, you know, Dairy Queen has a blizzard. She has what she calls a bomb. So basically you take any of the ice cream flavors and you make it into a blizzard / bomb, you know, which I guess just means adding cookies to it, right? Like Oreo cookies and M&Ms and stuff. So that's cool. Could you imagine like a jalapeno cheesecake with Oreos and M&Ms? Whew, that's a lot. That's a lot. I'm 45. I don't know if I could take that. I'd be waking up at 3 a.m. and not from nightmares. So that's pretty cool. If you live anywhere near Maine in the U.S., I would check this out. It sounds like a pretty fun thing. Now they already opened. They opened last Friday. So, you know, they're there, and it's just a little trailer in this. It's in the parking lot of this place called Twisted Iron Customs, which is like a motorcycle shop. So, and this guy who owns the customs and the parking lot and everything, he says his goal is to he has 72 acres, which is crazy. And he wants to make more of these. He has like a bus he wants to make into a barbecue joint and just put more of these kind of like the same themed places all around the parking lot. So it might be like a destination, you know, like a place where you go. If you're a big fan of post-apocalyptic, you go there and you eat and you try all this stuff out. I don't know. Might be kind of cool. Let's see what else we have. We have, Walking Dead World Beyond and Fear the Walking Dead, both spin-offs of The Walking Dead, are both continuing in October. Now, of course, we know that the regular Walking Dead, you know, the mother TV show, is coming back at the end of this month on the 22nd. Yeah, 22nd on AMC. And I think they're going to have an early preview like they usually do on AMC Plus. So that'll be in this month, August 22nd. But as far as the two spin-off shows, Fear the Walking Dead and World Beyond, they are coming in October. World Beyond will be on October 3rd, and Fear the Walking Dead will come back on the 17th. Now, both Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead, well, no, World Beyond and Walking Dead, yeah, those two, this is their final season. Fear the Walking Dead will continue after this. I don't know how long, but, we all know that Walking Dead, this is their last season, season 11. World Beyond, I think this is they weren't really set to be a long running show. It's kind of like a young adult, version of the same world. And it's only its second season, but it was kind of not really supposed to go past that anyway, I think. So it's the second and final season for World Beyond. All right, what else? Oh, and speaking of renewed, there's actually a lot of renewal news in this podcast. So we have, World Beyond, Fear the Walking Dead, renewed, coming back, also Snowpiercer. Of course, Snowpiercer it just ended its second season earlier this year. And, we just got to the point where they're hinting, well, I don't want to give any spoilers, but they're hinting at some new stuff, some new terrain, let's say, for the train. And that was season 2. And now they're filming season 3, which was postponed a little bit because of pandemic stuff. And they had some little bit of delay, I think, but I don't think it was too bad. So season 3 is wrapping up production, but as they're wrapping up the production of season 3, they haven't even released it yet, and they're already announcing season 4. So to me, that's exciting because it means that, what we're seeing now in the show, we can't even imagine. You think about how far they've gone. I'm a huge Snowpiercer fan, so you have to forgive me. I can't even imagine like how much further they'll go, considering how far they've gone from the beginning of season 1 to the end of season 2, and we still have double that. You know what I mean? Like double all of that, 2 more seasons to go after the end of season 2. So I can only imagine. I hope they don't draw it out. I hope they don't, milk it as much as they can to try to get more views, because they're doing a lot better. Like their viewership is going up, I'm pretty sure. Now, one thing I did notice, Jennifer Connelly, who was a big draw of the first season, you don't really see much of her in season 3 previews, and then they have the season 4 where they show some of the cast members of season 4. You don't see Jennifer Connelly in there. Now, if you were watching the show in season 2, then you might understand why. But there was hope. I think a lot of people are holding out hope that she is going to be back. So I don't know. We'll see. It seems like Daveed Diggs is the star. He's always kind of been the star, but he's really, really front and center now at the end of season 2. And I feel like season 3, it's going to be the same thing. Now, in the season 4 announcement, they show Diggs in there with a couple other cast members. Now, in the background of this picture, I'm looking at the season 4 announcement. In the background, you have Till, you have Zara, you have Alex, who is, Jennifer Connelly's daughter in the show, and then you have Bennett. Now, Bennett was the engineer. He didn't really have a huge role. I mean, I don't know, a couple of these did. Zara didn't really have a huge role. But it's cool to see that they're back at least. It's kind of the only, and of course Sean Bean. They show Sean Bean as Mr. Wilford in this season 4 preview. So I don't know. Oh, they also showed Josie too, who was Leighton's girlfriend. If you haven't seen the show, I don't want to spoil it. And it's kind of like a romantic, love triangle. But so she's back, and that's cool. But that's it. That's all they're showing us. They're not showing us any of the other cast members. So we don't know what's coming on. What's coming in the future. What's in the works. But what we do know is season 4, and I think that's exciting. Like I said, I'm a huge fan, and I hope they don't ruin it. I hope they don't ruin it in the ground, like happens to so many of these shows that become popular and then they keep going with them. Another big piece of news here is this one is huge. I think it's huge. Waterworld, they're going to make a TV series out of Waterworld, and now you think about it. Now Waterworld has this bad reputation. The movie, of course, with Kevin Costner, from 25 years ago, which I can't believe. It had a strange reputation because it was, at the time, it was the biggest, most expensive movie to be made. It was just a huge, huge movie, and you look at box office numbers. So financially, it was a flop. It didn't make that money back. But once it came to, well, back then it was like VHS. Once it came to DVD and VHS, it recouped a lot of that money. I mean, it had a following, and a lot of people really liked it. Now, the biggest things that I don't know. I think a lot of people kind of hate Kevin Costner. I don't understand why. I think he's great. Of course, he did The Postman, and The Postman was like, I thought it was a great movie, but a lot of people thought that it strayed so far from the book that it was like a shame. It was a shame on the book. And so I guess they don't trust Kevin Costner at this point. I don't know. So when he came out with Waterworld, a lot of people didn't like it. And it does have some, kind of cheesy parts in it, but I think overall the costumes are amazing. And I think the environments are amazing, and the story is pretty good. The acting is great. It just has some parts that are, a little unbelievable, but it is a fantasy, right? So to take that movie and make it into a TV show, I think that's exciting. I think that you wonder what they could do with it. Well, the basic premise, according to John Davis and John Fox, who are the producers, say that they are going to make the same characters 20 years later. What does that mean? What is 20 years? I mean, does that mean that they're going to take the same actors and, bring them up 20 years later? I would love to see that. I think, the only exception to that, of course, is Dennis Hopper. Dennis Hopper passed away 5-6 years ago, something like that. I guess it's been longer than that. It's probably been about 10 years ago. But Kevin Costner is a superstar right now. If you've ever watched Yellowstone, he is an old, just kind of take no crap from anyone, like a cowboy kind of, persona. But he is a badass in Yellowstone. And to take the Yellowstone Kevin Costner and put him into a new Waterworld, where he's kind of this, get off my lawn or get off my water kind of guy, I think it could work. I think it would be interesting to see that. Now, Jean Triplehorn was his co-star. She's been in a few things recently. She's still working. She's still out there. Man, 1995, I had the biggest crush on Jean Triplehorn, I got to say. So, and so that would be interesting to see her back. And then, of course, Tina Margarino, who is the little girl, that was, now she was in Napoleon Dynamite. And I got to say that because I love Napoleon. She was Deb in Napoleon Dynamite. This was after Waterworld. It was probably about 5 years after that. No, it was about 7 years after Waterworld. And she's still working. She's not doing a lot, but everyone knows her as Deb now from Napoleon Dynamite. So she's made a name for herself since Waterworld. She was also in When a Man Loves a Woman. I think that was before Waterworld. That was a great, great movie. Meg Ryan. And to see her working again, maybe they'll bring her back. She doesn't seem that busy right now. That's not a jab at her. It's just a fact. She doesn't seem that busy right now. So maybe she will be like a 20 years later. I feel like I want to write up an article. I probably won't do this, but I feel like I want to write up an article about taking those actors, at least those three, maybe a couple more, and kind of taking who they are now and writing a story about like what I would think that their storylines would be like the Kevin Costner, get off my waterway guy, I think it could be fun. So here's to hoping that when they say they're taking the characters 20 years later, that they actually mean the cast members 20 years later. I'd love to see that. All right. Here's the wishing on that, right? The next big piece of news is that Netflix, again, another Netflix story, has announced that Sweet Tooth is renewed for season 2. Sweet Tooth is another one that I loved. It was another one that was in the top 10 consistently for Netflix. It was the top spot for a while there too, just like Army of the Dead. It was a successful show, and I think they did a really, really great job with it. Of course, it's a it's a like a port from a comic book series of the same name. They did a great job with it. People loved it. No one really had any complaints about it. I think that it was better than a lot of people expected. And I've said this on the show before, but when you hear the name Sweet Tooth and you think, well, that's not going to be post-apocalyptic, that's not going to be a horror movie. Well, it's not a kids show. It's not a sweet show, really. I mean, I guess it kind of is, because that little kid is like, adorbs, but it's not about that. It's not like the name Sweet Tooth is actually kind of an unfortunate name, because it makes you think something completely opposite of what the show is actually about. It's a good show. It's a really good show. And to realize that it's going to come out for season 2, it's not hard to imagine that, because the comic book keeps going past what we saw in the first season. So if you're a fan of the comics, you know where it's going. If you're not a fan of the comics, I would say become a fan of the comics. And then you'll get you get like a leg up on what to expect in season 2 of the Netflix series. Now, there's no date for this. So we just have to kind of wait and see how that goes. We also have an article here that's in conjunction with that season 2 announcement about where Sweet Tooth was filmed. And that was written by Val, and she kind of goes through the details from a Twitter account from the director, and she goes for each one and shows kind of the scenes of where this show was filmed. I think that's interesting because, to get that kind of like fairy tale fantasy environment into this show, you have to wonder, where do you get that? Where do you get that? Is it CGI? Well, some of it is CGI, but a lot of it was real places. And so Valve details all of a lot of shots from the movie, in this article. It's a great article. Definitely check that out. And then another piece of news that is kind of sad for any of the fans of Horizon Forbidden West, people who are looking forward to that coming out. It's been delayed until 2022. So I think originally they were saying later this year. And, we're getting used to these delays. And a lot of it last year especially was due to the pandemic, of course. Well, we're still in the pandemic. They're making us wear masks again. And a lot of things are happening to kind of go back to where we were last year at this time. And it's really sad, but... And the least of those problems, I think, should be that entertainment is being slowed down, because there's more pressing issues with the pandemic. But that's the truth of it. The truth of it is that movies, TV shows, and now video games, everything is getting kind of pushed back. And Horizon Forbidden West is one of them. Zero Dawn, of course, was the first one, and just an amazingly gorgeous game. I can't even say enough about. I mean, I've used backgrounds, not this background I have on this, but my previous background I had with the I don't even know what it's called. It was like a robotic giraffe walking around in the background. That was from that game. It was originally supposed to be released this year between October and December, the sequel, but it's not happening. So as Val points out in this article, a lot of this isn't even really, it's not directly COVID related. A lot of it is that there's manufacturing problems, worker issues in China, and it affects the whole video game industry, So I guess it's just something we have to go back. We have to play our older games. It'll be fine, I mean, we can just play Mario Brothers, right? Is that still relevant? Yeah, it is. I think it came back around. No, but I'm playing a lot of older Fallout games, and I think to go back and visit those, you really appreciate kind of where games were back then, 15 years ago or so. So I guess that's our only option now. That's what we're gonna have to do. And I think that's about it as far as news. Let's see. I know I zipped right through those. I'm a big fan of concise news, right? We do have some news coming out. Of course, by the time this comes out, there will be a couple more pieces of news. But don't forget about some of the upcoming shows that are coming out in August. We do have, like for instance, we have Back for Blood, which is a game, and I wrote about this game a while back. So if you go to post-apocalyptic.com, and you can do a search for Back for Blood, and make sure the 4 is a 4 because it's from the people from Left 4 Dead. That's an anticipated game. We also have Risen, which comes out on the 20th, and then we have Finch, which is coming out also on the 20th. Finch is a movie. That's that movie that was originally called BIOS, it has Tom Hanks in it, and it looks pretty cool, but they're not showing anything for it. Like, I don't think that movie's actually coming out in August. I think they pushed that to next year anyway. I don't know. It's so weird. It's a weird. They changed the name. You know, they're saying Tom Hanks is in it. That's all we know, and it's just I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that. So I'm gonna keep my eye on that one because it has Tom Hanks in it. We'll see. There is, of course, The Walking Dead on the 22nd. It's coming back, and I believe. Let's see. Oh yeah, C. Season 2 of C is coming on the 27th of August. And The Colony is coming out on the 27th too. Now C is the one with Jason Momoa, and I loved the first season. It was kind of a sleeper hit, you know. It kind of flew under a lot of people's radar because when it came out, Apple Plus was, I don't know. I think people didn't really get into Apple Plus. They didn't really understand it. But when you get an iPhone, you get Apple Plus for a year, I think. So just keep buying a new iPhone every year and you'll be fine. And then you don't have to subscribe to it. But C is it's the show where everyone's blind. They can't see. And then they find out that there are people who can see. Spoiler alert. So I think that season 2 will probably explore that a lot more. You know, the people who can see and kind of getting away from the tribal, which I love. I love that tribal part of it, of season 1. But it seems like in season 2 they might be getting away from that. So I don't know. We will see. I don't have anyone to laugh at my jokes. It's just me in here. I might have to get like a laugh track and play it. Anyway, I think that'll do it for this episode. I better get out of here before I get tomatoes thrown at me. Thank you all for watching. This is super short, super fast. Again, if you want to slow it down half speed, then you'll understand everything I said. That's probably the only way. But thanks everyone for watching, and we will hopefully be back to the regular format next week. But until then, stay safe out there. Bye-bye.